All right, good afternoon and welcome back to Beyond Right. The JLI course today is the last class of this course, and it's the last class of the season because we have every year we offer 3 JLI courses as a minimum. Sometimes we add more courses from previous years. Officially, this ends the season. It's been a great journey. And we're excited for new seasons coming up, so stay tuned. I will be attending the JLI conference in 2 weeks, which we are going to have a full day conference and follow-up workshops to come together, 300 rabbis to discuss what are the best jokes that we can give over at the classes. So today's topic is what we call beyond presumption of innocence. The idea that we, how do we, we are, by definition, we like to judge people. People love judging other people, right? Some people are so judgmental that I can tell just by looking at them. You didn't get that one. Okay, you didn't get what I just said. Some people are so judgmental. I can just tell by looking at them. And the rabbi gets up and tells. It says in Torah, "Don't judge, don't judge, don't judge, don't judge." Right? Don't judge. Okay. So, what is this whole judgment business? Let's jump in. We start with an exercise on page 90. Page 166. And the question here is, do you possess any conscious biases? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Question number 2, do you suppose that you possess unconscious biases?
Yeah.
Yes. Number 3, do you consider certain biases positive? Yes or no? Huh?
Yeah.
Yes? Who wants to give us an example?
Asking your advice.
Asking my advice.
So we have a bias to believe what you said.
Okay.
Advice.
You pick who you pick somebody that has a certain bias to you to give you advice.
If you respect them.
If you respect them, okay.
I'm biased towards people who are well educated.
Okay, good. That's good. That's very positive. All right, let's read text 1A, the Oxford Online English Dictionary. Who wants to read us text 1A, page 167? Someone who's not eating, right? Tony, you want to read us text 1A?
Sure. Prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person, or group compared with another, usually in a way considered to be unfair.
Okay.
Definition of prejudice.
Definition of prejudice of bias, right? Unfair prejudice. Now, 1B, continue. Yeah, Tony, continue. Yep.
Temperamental inclination, an inclination of temperament or outlook, especially a personal and sometimes unreasoned judgment. I don't understand that. I don't understand temperamental inclination.
All right.
Oh,
Well, there's 2 types of biases. There's self-bias and there's bias towards others. Correct? So let's talk about the most basic bias we have, the bias in favor of ourselves. Correct? We are more biased to ourselves than to others. Then we'll go back to these 2. I think in 1A is unfair bias, how we look at others, and 1B is bias for ourselves, our personal view about ourselves. In exercise 6.2, we'll bring out these 2 points very clearly. If you look at the chart, all right, there are 4 fairly common personal lapses, negative occurrences. and it takes us how we interpret them when they happen to us, and then how we interpret them when they happen to others, right? Let's do this together. And you have these, you have this chart. If somebody comes home late, what is your bias by yourself, based on the options on the bottom? Why did you come late?
Difficult person.
Huh?
Difficult.
What? No, for yourself. Or if you excuse yourself, what do you say? What's the excuse?
Something came up.
Well, look, something came up or unexpected traffic, correct?
Yeah.
If you see somebody else coming late, what is your thinking? What do you judge the person?
Disorganized.
Huh? Disorganized, okay? Irresponsible, good. You're dealing with a bad mood. You are in a bad mood. What is your bias? Why are you in a bad mood?
Bad day.
You had a bad day. How about somebody else who's in a bad mood?
Difficult person.
Difficult person, exactly. You missed the appointment for yourself. What's your bias?
I forgot.
Overwhelmed.
I forgot.
Unexpected traffic.
Unexpected traffic, or something came up. And by others, somebody missed the appointment?
How dare you?
Huh? This
Irresponsible.
irresponsible, disorganized. Okay, slap. Left a mess. If you left a mess for yourself, huh? No, for yourself. Slav, okay. Huh? You're overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed. So I have a mess. I'm overwhelmed. Somebody else?
Disorganized.
Disorganized. Slav, okay. All right. So
we forgive much easier to ourselves than to others. Let's put it this way.
exactly. So all things are not equal towards myself. I have an underlining love. It's an established fact that I am a good person, right? It's an established fact, and towards others, I am free of this bias. The offense is the only fact I have, and we will shoot. And we will shoot and give them. It's amazing that our brains, our default position in our brains, we judge people just by their nose. A guy walks into the synagogue, you already have established a full file about that person. A full file, right? He votes this way, he is this way. He doesn't like me, and he is obnoxious, and he's not. You have a whole file before you even talk to the guy. And sadly, it's just sad. It's funny, but it's very sad, and it's painful to watch. Probably one of the greatest human, what's the right word? Maladies. As a rabbi, I get to first of all, we're all guilty ourselves. Number one, so I'm pointing to myself, but I get to see many times where I know more about people's life, being that they share with me their upbringing and their background, what they're going through, and then how people who just see them in shul or see them at a program will judge them and don't even know what's going on, and it's a horrible, horrible thing.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I think more often people will judge people by their behavior rather than just taking a look at them. Because
Correct.
if you just looked at someone, you always say, oh, I gotta wait till I get to know the person a little bit.
Right.
But if people behave a certain way, yes, you do end up judging them if their behavior is not acceptable.
Correct. I would highly recommend those who did not listen to the Tanya class yesterday actually addressed this on a very deep level, but on a very very powerful teachings in Torah and Tanya about how we have to look at others and how to love our fellow beings. So look at the YouTube recording. I recommend you listen to that one. But that's to your point. So being self-biased, is that a good thing or is it a bad thing?
Yeah.
To be biased about ourselves, to always give a good reasons for our behavior. Is that a good thing or is it a bad thing?
So my question is, are we born with it? Rabbi?
Huh?
Are we born with it?
Well, before we ask that question if we're born with it, but generally that we always give good excuses for ourselves. You saying it's a bad thing? Could it be a good thing?
No.
Huh?
No.
It's a good thing. Why is it a good thing? I think generally it's a good thing. But really, because really, you can, in most situations, you can always you can always attribute to, okay, I had a bad day, and it's okay to be late. It's okay to don't be so hard on yourself, right? So that's okay. If you always be harsh on yourself, then that's also not good.
Mm.
So being positive bias on yourself generally, as long as it doesn't make you into a fake and doesn't allow you to grow.
Selfish,
Selfish, that's the right word, then that's okay, it's healthy. But I think more than that, and that's really what Torah wants you to do, is to apply the self-bias to others. Can we apply the self-bias
Yeah.
to others? And that's where we want to get to in this class.
Sometimes.
And we're going to show how that applies in Jewish law to sometimes to extremes. Let's start with the Torah on text 2a, page 169. Famous line in the Torah, we read it a few weeks ago in the Chumash, but tzedek tishbeit amisecha, which means you shall judge your fellow with righteousness. All right, meaning, on a little sense, that means that the judges have to treat the litigants that come before them equally. They can't give the rabbi any favors, or a wealthy or a big macher any favors over the other. They're not allowed to take any, of course, they're not allowed to take any bribes, right? I think with David Ben Gurion, first prime minister of Israel, when they got the state of Israel and they established the Supreme Court, a modern state of Israel, and they tried to appoint judges, he came to the chief rabbi and he would complain. He says, the Torah says that you have to find a judge that doesn't accept bribes. He's having a very hard time finding a judge that is so ethical, that doesn't accept bribes.
Really?
So the chief rabbi says, David, for the right amount of money, you can find a judge. It's a joke. All right, relax. Text 2b, include in this commandment is the instruction to each individual. So not only by the judge, but each individual to judge their fellow favorably and to deliberately interpret their conduct and statement in a positive light. Through judging others favorably, we will foster peace and harmony among people as a result of eliminating mutual suspicion. So obviously, that's a big theme in the ethics of our family, but obviously not to be gullible and just accept everybody. If you know somebody to be a crook and a criminal, that's not where it applies. And it's our minds, this is always, I always see this. We always right away rush to the idea that we want to reject this idea because what do you mean? He's a criminal, right? What do you mean everybody's good? There's these horrible people who murder people. By and large, okay, let's exclude the the real bad people. But by and large, we're going to see most people are good people. Most people try to be good. So let's apply this principle more to judge people favorably. All right. Who asked? Rita, you asked, are we born this way? Are we born with good nature or not?
Yes.
Are we born to be positive? Huh?
Yeah, yes.
Well, that's a debate. It's a big debate. That's an old debate. You all say, yes, we're all born good people. And then what
Yes.
happens? We drink Coke and we mess up, huh? And that's huh?
Alex said not only Coke drinking.
Not
make
only
us
Coke.
bad.
Also coffee. All right, so this was the question. Let's go back here. Extend the self-bias to everyone, those who are generally good, those who don't know, judge them fairly until proven otherwise. So now we are at the question here. What is our natural human state? So we have the famous debate between Sigmund Freud, and we are honored to have one of our students live from Austria. Right? So what type of operating system do we run? What's our default modes? So Sigmund Freud did not have a very positive view of the human condition. Text 3, famous words. Who wants to read text 3? Joyce, page 170. Read a Sigmund Freud. Sorry.
Man is a wolf to man. Wow.
Mhm.
Men are not gentle creatures who want to be loved and who at the most can defend themselves if they are attacked. They are, on the contrary, creatures among whose instinctual endowments are to be reckoned a powerful share of aggressiveness. Homo homini lupus. Man is a wolf to man. Who in the face of all his experience of life and its history will have the courage to dispute this assertion?
Yeah. So Freud considers it clear that our basic instinctive method is to be aggressive, right? To be unkind. Well,
Never mind.
when did he write this?
Mm.
In 1930.
Yes.
He wasn't so far off. Look what happened after him,
That's right.
He
right?
was looking at Germany, what was happening in Germany with the Nazis.
Right. And Stalin and so on. All right. But we're gonna ask, what is the Jewish view on this? That's his view. And even amongst the psychologists, it was debated. Famously, Carl Rogers, text 4, right, disagrees to Freud, and he writes as fellow. You read so nicely. Read us text 4 again. Yes, thank
A
you.
positive view of human nature. One of the most revolutionary concepts to grow out of our clinical experience is the growing recognition that the innermost core of man's nature, the deepest layer of his personality, the base of his animal nature, is positive in nature, is basically socialized, forward-moving, rational, and realistic.
Good. So what does he say? What does he say? Do you agree?
No,
No? You agree with Freud?
I'm not sure. I mean, there's a combination.
There's a combination.
Freud was a Jew, you
So what?
know. What do you mean, so what?
Karl Marx was also a Jew. So what?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Is he talking as a Torah Jew, or is he talking as his understanding?
Yeah.
If he's a rabbi, then we have something to
I
talk
think we
about.
have to look, you know, if you want to.
You know, they say Theodor Herzl and Freud lived a few blocks from each other in Vienna, but they never met. Thank God. Imagine Theodor Herzl would meet Freud and says, Freud, I have this dream. And Freud says, okay, sit on my couch. I'm gonna analyze. Right?
That is true. But if you look at even society today.
All right, so we're gonna this is the all long debate, right?
Yeah.
Is man inherently aggressive and bad and has to learn to behave and control the behavior, or the other way around, right? We are good people, born good people, and then we grow up, we mess up. So which of the two perspectives on human nature resonates with you more, and why? I'm not going to go so much. We're going to let's just move on. I'm sure most people like who would like to hope to think that that Carl Rogers is right, but let's look how the secular law and Jewish law has actually applies this, and that's the concept of in secular law, you're always innocent until proven guilty. Why? Why is you always innocent until you're proven guilty?
Presumption of innocence.
Presumption of innocence, but why?
We don't know.
If we all born criminals, then maybe it should be guilty until proven innocent, right? Huh? That's how it's in Russia. Okay. All right. Let's read. That's the here. Let's read this next text from the Massachusetts District Court. Oh, well, you feel at home. Mr. Gopstein, read us text 5, please. Page 172.
The law presumes the defendant to be innocent of the charge or all the charges against him or her. This presumption of innocence is a rule of law that compels you to find the defendant not guilty unless and until the Commonwealth produces evidence from whatever source that proves that the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. This burden of proof never shifts. The defendant is not required to call any witnesses or produce any evidence, since he or she is presumed to be innocent. The presumption of innocence stays with the defendant unless and until the evidence convinces you unanimously as a jury that the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. It requires you to find the defendant not guilty unless his or her guilt has been proved beyond a reasonable doubt.
All right. So,
Too many people take
That's
advantage.
criminal.
okay,
Too many people what?
take advantage.
Advantage of that, you know.
So next
I mean,
time you're
criminals
brought
are
up
bad.
on charges for violating the traffic, forget about the presumption, you're guilty.
In every,
Big
in,
surprise.
in every, right, this is, but like he said, the alternative is worse. So you gotta work with a certain system, like we learned the other classes. Otherwise, if you always going to have people that are going to take advantage, well, that's where we have systems around the system, systems around the systems. All right, let's now understand how does Jewish law look at people. So in the tech law, there's presumption of innocence. In Jewish law, there's also this idea of presumption of innocence, but we go a step further, and not just presumption of innocence, that a person is innocent, but more than that, the presumption is that every person is actually righteous. Not just innocent, but that they are righteous. I know you're gonna say,
Now,
Yeah,
is
it's
this
like-
only for Jews?
huh?
Is this only for Jews or does it?
Is this after several
Include
cups?
non-Jews.
Is this after several glasses of wine?
Yeah, but special people.
Oh, I know that, but
That's why they're.
If that's the attitude, even for non-Jews.
Yes, in generally speaking, it refers to all human being. In a Jewish law, in a Jewish court, you can only apply the law for one Jew to another Jew if you are in the framework of a Jewish court, because you can't apply or decide a decision on somebody who's not Jewish based on Jewish law, unless they want to accept that.
Right.
So we're looking more from a study point. And so typically, if there is we have Jewish courts today. We have Jewish called the Beis Din, where people choose to want to litigate something in a Jewish court, which makes it problematic because there is no enforcement. But when you have two people who want to do the right thing together and they just don't know what the law would say, and say, hey, let's decide together, we are going to ask what's the Torah view, and whatever the court comes out with, we will follow voluntarily. That's a beautiful thing. Because again, in lesson 1, the approach to living life is not about what can I get out of life, rather what is the right thing to do. Right? So you can have a business partner, a Jewish business partner, right? And and now there's a complicated case of splitting some type of revenue, right? And you don't know what the model should be. And they both friends, but said, look, it's not about me. I want to know what does Torah have to say, and then they can go to court. In the olden times in Israel, not today. Today, Israel does not have a Torah court. Israel, Imam say Israel is a secular court, but in the older times we had a Beis Din, and that's where things were ruled. So Talmud has all these discussions based on Torah view, but we can, in this course, we can glean a lot of information and how we can apply it. Not so much we're not debating this so much about court issues, right? But more how interpersonal relationship. How do we behave? What's the lesson we can take from that? All right. So based on that, so this idea that the secular is a presumption of innocence, Jewish law is presumption of righteousness. What does that mean? So let me give you an interesting introduction to this next concept that brings out that point. I need to give you an introduction in kosher law in regards to animal consumption, animal slaughter law. So in kosher law, a kosher animal has to not just be kosher, but also has to be slaughtered kosher, ritually slaughtered, called shechita. Very complex, very specific, many different laws. But, and Torah goes at length, that a person who slaughters has to be somebody who has studied and practiced. What's in brief, the slaughter is done with the most extreme sharp knife that has no nicks. It has to be smooth and sharp. A person who slaughters the animal has to go through the neck of the animal, is not allowed to apply any pressure while slaughtering the animal, meaning the knife is so sharp that by itself it cuts. It's if you they don't sell them in the regular stores, these type of knives, right?
Yes.
Because they're extremely
God.
dangerous knives. But literally, if you would drop the knife without pressure, just drop the knife, it will go through your finger. That's how sharp the knife are. And every time they have to keep sharpening those knives, meaning that the animal cannot suffer any pain. It's an instant cut, which means the animal instantly loses consciousness and dies out of the loss of blood. So basically we put a lot of trust on the shochet, on the slaughterer, that he's trained to do so. We're going to see soon how he gets trained, because if he applies pressure or the knife is not as sharp, it deems the entire animal not kosher for consumption. Not only that, after the animal is slaughtered, we have to ensure the animal was actually a healthy animal. If the animal has a health condition, that the animal would have died from the health condition within 12 months, the animal is not kosher for consumption.
12 months?
Yeah.
Oh,
So now you understand that when shechita is very, very strict concept, it's very rigorous, which means that I believe today, with all the precaution, 1 out of 10 animals after they slaughtered is find that there's an issue with it and cannot be used for kosher meat, which drives the kosher meat prices up, because now you have taken a loss, or you have to sell it further. But that's kind of the that's not the conversation. The conversation is that this is whole idea. Now, with this information in mind, let's read this next text, text 6. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we read, how do I know the animal is kosher, that the animal is healthy?
How?
How? So I said that after it's slaughtered, you would check the animal, right?
Right.
Well, do I have to check the animal or not? That's the question. Do I have to check the animal or not? Huh?
If it's the law, yes.
Yeah.
If it's the law, yes.
So the idea, the law is that generally speaking, we assume that most animals are healthy. Most animals are healthy. We don't have to, after we slaughter it, check and have an examination of the animal, because that's not so simple, right? How do you check after it's dead if the animal is healthy or not? We don't have to, unless there's suspicion, unless there's certain suspicion. So for example, so against all this, and just makes it, you ever heard the expression of glatt kosher, right? There's kosher and there's glatt kosher. What does glatt mean? Glatt means smooth, right? Yes, correct. But in not to get too graphic, basically, there is a debate: does the shochet have to check the lungs after he slaughters the animal? If there is holes, punctures in the lungs, right? Does that deem the animal non-kosher or not? Is that a health issue that the animal can live or not live more than 12 months? And how do you know? So I had in Switzerland, we had a member in our shul who was a professor in animal and a veterinarian and a rabbi, and he's the expert today in the world on putting these things together. He wrote a book. So if you're interested, look up Dr. Rabbi Schlesinger from Basel, Switzerland. Not Schlesinger, Levinger. Yes.
Does the animals been checked before the sport?
Yeah, so obviously, if you want to check the animal before as much as you can, not to, because there's certain minimal things you always have to check regardless. Yes, and then so I was getting to the shochet literally has to check the lungs. If there's puncture in the lung, now is a debate: is it kosher or not kosher? And that's the difference between kosher and glatt kosher. Sometimes you have, most meats today, thank God, are glatt kosher. But it used to be many times, or there's some companies, it just says kosher, it doesn't say glatt kosher, because they a little less of a standard of kashrut. But also for health purposes, you know that you're really eating meat from an animal that was in perfect good health, which is definitely a big plus. Now, with this information, let's read text 6. I'm going to read it. Text 6, page 173. It is clear and established that we are all presumed to be righteous. This is the analogous to presumptions we use regarding the kosher status of animals. As long as an animal is alive, it is forbidden for consumption. And it is presumed to have remained in this state until we can ascertain that it has been slaughtered properly. Once the animal has been slaughtered properly, it is then presumed to be kosher unless it's clearly proven to be non-kosher due to a severe physical defect. Similarly, God created each of us upright and honest by nature. People retain this presumption of righteousness unless it has been clearly proven that they have chosen to veer from the way of truth and righteousness and follow a deceitful and crooked path. All right? So just like we presume the animal is kosher, we also presume that humans, right, are kosher. They're righteous. Righteous. That's a whole spiel. They're comparing how we look at animals. Right? We assume animal is good, but some people are presumptions to be right. The presumption that they're righteous. Huh?
But animals seem nicer than people.
You bet. You bet.
That's right.
You bet. Huh?
You
You can check the animal.
But they, it's,
Okay.
it sounds like they don't really check. They presume.
No.
They check the lungs.
The lungs.
Lungs and liver.
The discussion is not now. We're not getting into the whole animal business.
Yes. But also the rabbits don't want there to be a loss. So
If you want, there's actually, I think north of Tampa, there's a kosher slaughterhouse. They slaughter their animals. If you want, you can take a field trip. Good luck. No, don't go there. Don't go there. But my point, we'll discuss. But the point is more the idea, the concept that the presumption of we look at another person as righteousness. Here's the question: which of the two views regarding human nature is the secular legal principle in text 5 compatible? Remember, we had the two views, right? Are people more aggressive, or are people more inherently good? If we take the approach that the secular law says you're innocent until proven guilty, do they take the approach that people are inherently good, or not necessarily?
No,
Good.
Huh?
not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Enough evidence.
Oh, not necessarily. Nothing to do with the goodness in people. It has to do that you don't have evidence, and as long as you don't have evidence, the other side of the coin is you're innocent. Nothing to do with nothing the way we look at people.
What if you have a gut feeling?
Again, in Jewish view, right? The Jewish view, however, is that what? That we do, huh?
We're presumed righteous.
We presume righteous, which is much more powerful. So it's not in Jewish view, you also have to have proof to get somebody to be guilty, but not because prove that you're guilty, but we have to debunk a righteous person. So the view is on the person, not just on global ideas. Okay, why is that? Why is it that we are presumed as innocent, that we are presumed as righteous people? Because we are. Why are we?
Because
We're born that way.
Because we're born with it.
Exactly, because we're born with a neshama. We're born with a godly soul. Because we're born with a godly soul. Text 7, we say this prayer in the morning, every day, page 175, text 7. Elokai neshama, may God, the soul, my God, the soul that you have placed in me is pure. You created it, you formed it, you breathed it into me, and you preserved it within me. The core of our identity is pure. The core of our identity is righteous, right? So that's why in text 8, the Talmud makes a very strong statement. A person that sins, why do they sin? People only transgress when they are overcome by a spirit of foolishness. Meaning, what does it mean, a spirit of foolishness? People have overcome by an external force, by an external influence that tampers their core being.
Their whole life?
No, not for the whole life. That's why you have the power, to do tshuva. You get the power of repentance. Remember, the word teshuva means to return. Doesn't mean repent and return to what? Return to your core identity of being a righteous, of being a good person. Freddie, what's the matter? Too cold or too hot? Okay, don't worry about it. Get her a talus. Get her a talus. She can wear a talus. In my class, if she's cold, she can wear a talus. Or something warm. All right. So now let's look get a little bit more practical. Okay. So everyone's following? All right. What does it believe in the positivity of human nature based on? We just said we possess a divine soul. The core of our identity is completely pure. But that transgression is not natural to us. Transgression is not natural to us. Okay, let's go back to a case about, now they were all experts in kosher slaughtering laws, right? We're going to study a text of Maimonides. So I said that a slaughterer called a shochet, right? In every town, they had a shochet. And all the times, everybody knew the shochet. Why? Because in the shtetl, there was no commercial stuff, right? So you had a farm, you were hungry, you took your chicken, you went to the shochet's house. Shochet in his backyard had a knife and slaughtered the chicken. Then you would take home the chicken as is. Your bubby knows that. They will clean the chicken. Do you know anybody knows how to clean the chicken?
Yes.
You're in Soviet Union, right? You did it. Yeah, you did it. Because right, you did it. Right, but do you know any American, born and bred American that know how to clean a chicken in the bathtub? It's good. It's good. We are past our lunch break, right? So, no, right? You don't. Because we are just spoiled. We're really spoiled. You buy the ready-made chicken in the grocery. You don't even know what goes into it and how lucky you are, blessed you are that you have that. Okay, all those who are vegetarians, please forgive me. We'll have this conversation.
You forgive them.
Because we don't have too much vegetables.
Okay, I forgot to say perhaps we're going to have a barbecue tonight. I'm joking. All right, let's move on. Oh, so the shochet is not just somebody who goes, and the shochet has to be somebody who's trained. Plus, they have to be a God-fearing person, meaning most shochet are as close to a rabbinic position because it's a matter of trust. Somebody who has trust that he is God-fearing means that he doesn't go by his own evil inclination, right? God-fearing means that you can never trust 100%, right? But in general, we do trust a person, the God-fearing, meaning that they live a life responsible to higher authority. So with that, here's the dilemma. Maimonides gives us a case. Text 9. Suzanne, you want to read us text 9? Page 177. Thank you.
The Jew who doesn't know the laws of
Shechita.
May not slaughter. You see? Any meat slaughtered by such a person is forbidden for consumption. Even a person who knows the laws of kosher slaughter should not slaughter alone before practicing many times under the supervision of expert sholem, right? And scholar,
Scholar.
and achieving
Proficiency
at the technique. Only a person who is well versed in laws and shechita and has practiced under expert supervision under achieving proficiency is considered a qualified expert.
Oh, so every community would only hire or accept somebody who has the credentials, right? Credentials. And today, that's also the community of shochtim are very respectful people, but they mainly work in the slaughterhouses. You don't see them typically, right? But I have good friends who are shochets.
Who gives the credentials?
the shochet above them. It's literally a process of like just you go from your
Father to son.
no, if from authority to authority, somebody who was ordained, right, by by a shochet, and now gets ordained, he has also the power, probably after a few years, to now continue to ordain further. Plus, there's always like the pilot, you got to learn how to fly from the books, and then you have to fly the plane itself. In addition to just practicing, it's not just you take a kid on the street, say, hey, here's a knife, and go practice and cutting, and I'll tell you till you get it right. They also have to practice very extensive books in Jewish law about all matters. I did study the laws of shechita as part of my rabbinic training, but I didn't go into the practical, as that was not something I wanted to do. So I studied how to shochet, how to salt meat, all that stuff. I studied more as information as knowledge by the rabbinical training, but not something I ever probably will have to apply in real life. And if I did decide one day to become a shochet, like today I got a seat in the school bus, I thought maybe that's a good career. I can take the learning what I learned, probably have to review it, and then go out and get trained in as a shochet. But guys, don't worry, keep me busy. I don't want to be a shochet.
Good.
Okay, so what happens now? What happens if we cannot verify? Somebody comes to town. This is in text 10, right? If a Jew came and slaughtered an animal and left before we were able to determine. So first of all, if a Jew, let's imagine there's a shtetl, right? They don't have a full-time shochet. And Yankel has a farm. And somebody's traveling, Moshe is traveling, and he comes to town, Yankel says, we need a shochet. Says, yeah, I'm a shochet. Okay, here, take it. He shechts the animal, right? Then the rabbi says, 1 second. It's Moshe, we got to first investigate Moshe's credentials. So the rabbi will have a conversation with Moshe, find out what he'll learn, and then he'll determine is he a good shochet or not. That's all good and fine. What happens if Moshe comes to town? Nobody knows Moshe. Yankel hires Moshe to shech the animal, and Moshe leaves town. And now Yankel's in the market selling kosher meat, right? The rabbi says, oh, 1 second, who's the shochet? Some guy who came by, claimed to be a shochet. What do we do now? What do we do now? Innocent till proven guilty? Well,
Yeah.
based on what we learned, what we learned is what?
Presumption of innocence,
There's something more than that.
of righteousness.
We are we now going to say he was a fellow Jew, right? He claimed that he was a good shochet, presumption of righteousness. Let's accept it. Look in text 10. If a Jew came and slaughtered an animal and left before we were able to determine whether or not he was a proficient practitioner, the halacha says the meat is good. It may be consumed. The rationale for this law is that the majority of slaughter practitioners are experts. Okay? And because of that, the anonymous shochet is assumed to be qualified, right? But the obvious question is, really? But we don't know. I haven't seen his ordination. I haven't seen his certificate. Do we go? What's the rationale to go that far? If I have the person in front of me, right?
Asking tricky questions.
Must I ask him questions? Why? Why don't we say, don't ask any questions? He's righteous, right? No, I do have to ask questions. Now that he's not in front of me, so it would have been easier to say, we don't know. Meat is not kosher. No, the halacha says, yet still, we assume that shochet was a good shochet. What's the rationale behind it?
Presumption.
Not just assume. We take it for. Yeah, we said the majority of people are good, majority of people are righteous, so it's all good and fine. Don't worry about it. What's the rationale behind? So this is the great minds of Talmudic rabbis, like famously Rabbi Soloveitchik. If you heard Rabbi Soloveitchik, they were brilliant minds. They wrote beautifully, especially on the complex legal stuff where there was always, what's the logic? They want to give me a good logic. So he gives a logic in text 11. by Yosef Dov Soloveitch, the famous, the Briskerov. So he writes, text 11, page 179. He writes as follows: we consider every Jew as certainly righteous. We're certain that they are particular about the laws of kosher, shechita, slaughter, and wouldn't slaughter if they weren't a qualified expert. It's not something that, I'm a photographer. Everybody can claim to be a photographer. To actually go and slaughter an animal, that takes skill, right? And why would somebody claim if they really don't know what they're doing? I mean, that'd be stupid. So that in itself, right? As a result, we don't say that since there exists a minority of non-expert who slaughters, the animal remains in its established non-kosher status, because the animal before it was slaughtered, is it kosher or not?
Yeah.
No.
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 Wait a minute, but it's
was
the kind of
healthy.
animal
No,
that you.
the kind is kosher, but for consumption. Is an animal before it's slaughtered kosher for consumption?
We don't know.
No, no, you can't. You can't eat an animal unless it gets slaughtered properly.
Right.
Right? If you find a kosher animal dead on the street, you can't just eat the animal. It's not kosher. Right? So meaning that the status of every animal, talking about simply regarding kosher, is it's not kosher. The only status to change that is when we actually slaughter it in a ritual proper way. So he says, so why don't we say, he says, the majority of a shochet, of the ritual slaughterers, are qualified people. There is a minority, maybe somebody who could claim he is and it's not, but that must be a very small minority. Do we need to take that minority in consideration now that it's ready after the fact? I can't claim that I can investigate. We don't know who he is. Do I need to take that minority in consideration? And the answer is no. Why not? Again, as a result, we don't say that since, let's continue reading. As a result, we don't say that since there exists a minority of non-expert who slaughter, the animal remains in its established non-kosher status. Among righteous Jews, there is not even a minority that would act improperly. Among righteous Jews, not amongst bad Jews, among righteous Jews, there is not even a minority that would act improperly. By the way, just to clarify, if you know that somebody's a crook, he's no longer righteous. We don't apply that level of confidence. If you know somebody who breached his righteousness, right? Then we are that, and then he goes and shechts in another place. It's not good. We don't have to now say innocent until guilty. We are talking about where I don't know, right? Where I don't know. So the minority of unrighteous Jews isn't a factor worthy of consideration, because every Jew that has not been established as suspect must be considered as undoubtedly righteous. The presumption of righteousness is thus not just majority based. We know that there is an unrighteous minority present in the world at large, but every individual Jew that we are evaluating must be considered as certainly righteous without reservation. So basically,
Confusing.
it's confusing, but basically the approach is that we don't need to even consider that there is a minority of people who are not righteous, unless I know that a person is unrighteous. But generally, when I have and when I'm dealing with one individual, when I'm talking with one fellow Jew, then 100% righteous. No questions, no questions. He's 100% righteous, and I accept that. I accept that. That's how extreme, in a sense, Jewish law goes. Very extreme.
By the time we establish righteous or not,
Yeah.
that this animal could be rotten.
Could be what?
It could be rotten.
Oh.
Okay. Now let's move to another example. We're taking this even further, even more extreme. And that's the case of righteous procession. So let's just recap over here on the screen. All right, righteous procession. The saying is that procession is 9/10 of the law, right? Whoever has the item that then if I have this mouse, right? And you, Richard, comes and say, hey, it's mine. Who has to prove it's mine? Do I have to prove it's mine or you have to prove it's yours?
He has to. prove
Why? Because
you're holding it.
I'm holding it, right? So having it in my possession is already proof that it's mine, or mostly. Okay? Jewish law takes this quite to an extreme. Look in text 12 from the Talmud. It's going to shock you. Witness saw, here's a case. Witness saw a person enter another's house and leave with items concealed beneath his garments. The possessor of the item claims that he purchased them, while the owner of the house denies this. The law, who has to show proof?
The owner.
Huh?
The owner has a receipt.
Before you read this, you're your neighbor. You're seeing somebody enter Mark's house and comes out hiding something under his shirt, and the owner comes out and yelling, hey, it's mine, it's mine. Who has to show proof it's theirs? The guy who entered or the owner? Huh? Before you read the Talmud.
Why is he hiding it?
Why is he? Maybe he doesn't want you to see what he just got. Who should show proof it's theirs?
The owner.
The one who's holding it. That's what I think, right? Show me receipt. You said he bought it. Show it. Where's? What the Talmud says? The law is in this case. It's in that the possessor is not believed.
That's a good law.
That's a good law.
We have to believe that the mouse is.
So we believe who? The homeowner. Now, the principle only applies when the homeowner claims that the item in question were on loan, and the possessor claims that they were purchased. But if the homeowner claims that the item was stolen, his accusation is rejected. For we do not presume a person to be a thief without proof. Now, again, so when do we say that the homeowner is believed? In a case when the homeowner says it's a loan, right? It's not his. I just gave it to him as a loan, and then the possessor says, I purchased it. So then the homeowner has to get proof. However, if I run out and I say he's a thief, right? And the guy says, no, I just bought it from him. Who has to bring proof that he's a thief? The homeowner. Why? Because we don't we treat a person that they're righteous. So we don't accept the claim that the guy's a thief, even if you just watching the show, right away says,
You're saying it yourself, you don't accept it.
so that's the question. If you see yourself that the guy breaks into the house, right? It's another story. Then you're a witness of
If
it.
he walks into the house and steals it, you still presume he was.
If you did not see that he stole it, you only see the guy walking to the house and he's walking out of the house with something, right? You don't know what went on inside. You don't know what went on inside. The homeowner says he's a thief. The guy says, I bought it. The Talmud says, who's believed? The possessor, the guy who has it. He's believed. Why? Because he's right. All right. Next case. Why, you don't get it?
Stealing would be allowed this.
I did not, it doesn't say that. Doesn't say
No,
that.
because then if they're always saying the thief is righteous, then.
No,
the
you
owner doesn't have
can you-
receipts for everything they own.
I don't, but from my receipts I'll pass.
Well, we're saying that.
Very fishy.
we are saying that you have to bring proof that the guy was a thief.
Mhm.
Just because
Like
you,
on camera,
huh?
like you
If you
got
have
the
camera,
video.
yeah, like I have the camera with this man. Installed the bike, yes, I have proof. But maybe he's gonna say, we're gonna see him in court, he's gonna say, it's still mine. I bought the bike. Show me proof it's yours. Huh? Right? Thank God he's not in class.
Keep the receipts.
Okay, again, look, you can question this. Of course, that's the whole point. If I would teach you something very boring, then what's the point of the class? I'll teach you how Jewish law takes it to sometimes. Obviously, this is a unique setup, right? Because rarely it happens that a guy walks into the house and there's a brazen thief, and then the guy and then the guy claims he just bought it, right? I'm sure there is good evidence that most people can bring that the item belongs to me, and maybe all right. We can debate that, but the point is, we go on the principle that everyone is righteous.
Is there a reputation of a person ever comes into play?
Yeah. Again, if it's a known criminal, then we don't believe him. We don't believe. No.
If he righteously got it, we don't believe him because the reputation precedes.
If he rightfully got it, make sure to have a proper receipt. That's how I would say. Yeah. Otherwise, by the way. All right, let's move on.
Yes.
Next one. Here comes even something that's even more confusing.
Preempting.
Yeah, the next one will be a preempting buyers. So here's a Talmudic story. Text 13, page 181. So before we read the story, the law is that if you see somebody else that's in the process of buying something, right? You're at the car dealership and there's one car left, right? Which happens today, right? Everyone wants a car. Otherwise, you gotta wait 6 months for the next car to come in. And you see Mark is buying the process of buying the car, and you rush in and you undermine the sale, and you come in and you try to outmaneuver and buy the car in between. Is that valid sale or not? Huh? You're sitting with the salesman is sitting, and then they go in the back, back office where they have to do all the paperwork. And while they're doing the paperwork and they still haven't signed anything, you walk in with $30,000 cash, you give it to the owner, boom, and you walk out with the keys, right? Okay, technically you got the car. Bottom line, whoever got the car first, got first, right? Are you a mensch? No, you're not a mensch, but legally you are the owner. All right, the Talmud doesn't accept that. So look in text 13. Actually, a story. Rabbi Gidel attempted to acquire a certain plot of land, but Rabbi Abba preempted him and purchased it. Ooh. Rabbi Gidel complained about Rabbi Abba's action to Rabbi Zera, who relayed the complaint to Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha told them to wait until Rabbi Abba would visit him for the festival, at which point he would discuss the matter with him. When Rabbi Abba arrived, he's the one who snatched the land, Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha asked him, what is the law? That's a good teacher. He doesn't tell him you did something wrong. He says, what is the law? Let me ask you, what is the law? All right. In a case whereby a pauper moves to acquire an ownerless loaf of bread that he found, but someone else comes along and preempts him. Rabbi Abba replied, the one who took it away is referred to as wicked. Rabbi Nafcha pressed Rabbi Abba, if so, why did you act in this way? Rabbi Abba replied, in good Jewish response, right? I did not know that Rabbi Gidel was trying to acquire the land. But if I would, possible, yeah, and that's the end of the story. He did not know. If he would have known, he would not done it. It would not be valid, and he returned the land to Rabbi Gidel. All right, that's nice. Okay, nice story. Finally, a story everybody's happy with. Okay. Now comes another. But the story teaches that it will be forbidden to undermine a sale that was intended for somebody else, correct? Or an acquisition. Because it could be sale, or it can be just like an ownerless property that somebody's trying to acquire, and then you take it and run and grab the title. Here comes another interesting story that I'm sure that most of you are not going to agree so fast. Okay. That's the point. Text 14. A person, here's a, let me tell you before I read what it is, and then we can read it. Somebody is an agent. I got a call yesterday, by the way, from a law firm in Manhattan. All right. They're a real estate law firm. They're real estate developers, and they are, and he is an agent, or he's the attorney to find deals in Florida. Now they need to reinvest millions of dollars of real estate, and they're calling me, right? Why not? They're calling me if I know of anybody that is looking to sell development properties. Anybody have something? Okay. I'm probably, yeah, you're selling my property now, right? Thank you. All right. So here's an agent. Forget about my case. It's not a case. It's not a case. There's somebody whose job is that he's an agent to buy property for somebody else, right? For a developer. He went and found the property and went into contract. And now he says, wow, that's a good deal. But the contract is between the agent and the buyer and the seller, right? He didn't tell the seller that I'm buying it on behalf of the principal, correct? So now, technically, he can just say, it's for me. And so is that, and he said, oh, you know what, by the way, it's for me, it's not for the principal. So who gets, now, now he lies. Or he even says more so, he says, yeah, originally the intention was to buy it for the principal. But now I want it for myself, and legally I can because it's on my name. What do we say? What do we say? Huh? Can the agent keep it or not? No, based on what we learned earlier, it's like the guy who comes in, right, and undermines the sale. Now, let's read this text and tell me how you're going to make sense of this. It's not so simple. A person appointed someone to serve as his agent to purchase a specific property. The agent purchased the property without specifying in the purchase agreement that he was doing so on behalf of the principal. And he now claims to have purchased it for himself in a personal capacity. The law is that we reject the agent's claim on the grounds that the Talmud labels such an action as a spiteful conduct, and we operate under the assumption that the remnant of, quote, that the remnant of Israel would not commit an injustice. Meaning, what does that mean?
Bad deal.
Huh?
An invalid deal.
Invalid deal, is that what it says?
Well, he can't claim he bought it for himself if he bought it for somebody else because it's deceit.
There's no proof that he bought it for somebody else. In the contract, it is between him, the agent, and the seller. The only problem is his statement. He makes a statement that originally I was an agent, but now when I bought it, it was for me.
Is that true? Though?
Huh?
Is that true?
He himself says it. He himself says
But
it.
is he sincere or is he just pretending?
No, he's sincere. He's
That is fine.
But it's deceitful.
but he's not just he's not just a person. His job is to be an agent, right? So the principal says, but I want the property. And the guy says, the agent says, well, I really bought it for myself. I know that I typically am your agent, but I bought it for myself.
Was there a principal involved?
No, not in the actual transaction.
But the agent is dishonest.
Huh? The agent is dishonest.
Yes.
So if we accept his admission that he was dishonest, right? Based on based on that premise, then it will be like the rabbi's deal, right? Where you undermine somebody else who then the sale is not valid. If he would kept his mouth shut, right? Then what? Huh? He would have had it. So now he himself self-discriminated. What's it called? The word? He discriminated himself, right?
Credited himself.
So what do we say? What does the law say? That we don't even accept the agent's claim that he did something wrong. We don't accept that. Why? Because people are righteous. We don't accept that you admit that you did something wrong. We look at the premise that people are righteous, and based on that, we don't know nothing about agent and principal. Look at the contract. Yeah, you're one that bought the property. Mazel tov, it's yours.
So we have to believe whatever happened is for best, especially in this case, because
Yeah,
we're anxious people.
that's not the conversation.
No, but business-wise, it's definitely
You know
wrong.
what? Without proof, there's no proof here. There's no proof. There's without proof. There's no proof. If I have proof, it's not. If I have an agreement, right, with the principal and the agent that anything I buy goes to the principal, that's proof. But there's no proof, right? I'm just telling you, hey, Richard, go across the street and buy me this property for me, right? You don't know about the deal. I know about the deal. I'll tell you about it. If no proof, you go, you sign your name on it. And even if you say, you know what, yeah, he told me about it. We don't take your word, he told me about it, because you are making yourself unrighteous. Forget, we don't want to hear that. You're a righteous person. Based on the righteousness, it's a good deal. I know this is a brain twist. This is really a brain twist, right? But just to bring out how sometimes something we take that principle even to such extreme where it doesn't necessarily sit well with us, okay? It says, well, obviously, if the guy wants to admit he did something wrong, he can renegade the deal and say, okay, you know what, no problem, take it. But obviously, we're looking at a very plain situation. All right, let's wrap this up. Huh?
That's why there are disclosure laws, because
Of course,
this kind of.
of course. And then it's not a question.
understanding that ends up in court.
Right. And that's right. Everything should be in writing, of course. But we're talking about things that were not done the proper, the ideal way. Let's wrap this up here.
there be any strength to an oral agreement?
No, very rarely.
Not even a handshake.
No, because of COVID. No No handshake, just elbow.
Yeah.
They don't count.
So we take an approach of this positive bias to others to such extreme. Judaism takes a very strong positive bias that we apply, that every person is not just innocent, but they're positive, they're righteous, they're amazing people, which is true. In essence, that's so true. That's how we look at it. And if we start looking at each other like this way, our society will be much better. But also, but I hear you. I hear everyone's grumbling. Yeah, but the world is so bad. People can't trust people. People are just selfish and right. Am I correct? Okay. Let me disprove you a bit. It's not so bad as it seems to be, or the TV tells us it is.
Look at the gas pumps.
Somebody make money.
That's the least problem.
What's the problem? So look in text 15.
It's sort of like we're pretending.
Here's a study. A study was done about, they want to bring out, a study was done about hiding wallets in different countries. And they wanted to see if people who find their wallets are going to return it. You heard about the study?
No.
So this is
I
the
have
study.
one today on my watch.
Text 15, this is the study.
Really?
Page 184.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, no, it's not. This is the New York Times 2 years ago, June 2019, 3 years ago. This is the study done, okay? Researchers planted 17,303 wallets in 355 cities. This was a huge study, okay? Think about it. And on every continent except Antarctica, where there's only Chabad there, the American segment conducted in 2015, okay, involved 25 cities, including Albuquerque, Chicago, Memphis, and New York. The wallets, transparent business card cases with content instantly visible, contained 3 business cards with a male name common to that country: Dmitry Ivanov for Russia, Ton Andrianta for Indonesia, Peter Kigo for Kenya. The American names were Brad O'Brien, Brad Miller, Connor Baker, and Shalom Shmuel. Now, each business card listed an email address and identified the man as a freelance software engineer, so people would try contacting employers. So they tailored it to their locale, right? Each wallet, it's interesting, also contained a key and a handwritten grocery list in the native language, milk or locally analogous drink, bread, pasta, to make it really authentic looking, right? Or rice or noodles, bananas. Some wallets had no money inside. Some had $13.45 in local currency, adjusted to a comparable value for each country. And then they ran an experiment again in 3 countries, Poland, the United Kingdom, and the United States, adding big money, quote unquote, wallets containing $94.50. So let me ask you, what percentage of people do you think would return the wallet in the 3 different scenarios? A, no money, B, $13.45, or C, the big money, the $94 one. Which percentage of people, right, would you say? In which one will be the highest percent of people returning money? In A, B, or C? No money, little money, or big money?
No money.
No money? No money. Big money? No money, right?
Equal.
Equal? Equal?
Middle. I think
Huh?
middle.
Middle, okay.
You wanna be safe.
But so we hear some people would say, if there's no money inside, it's easy to return. If there's money inside, right, people want to keep it, right? So you would think 17,000, and not just New York, we're talking about Africa, right? Places where there's poverty, right? So what's the percentage that people will return? If there's no money, it'd be easier to return. We would think it will be a higher percentage. If there's less money, if there's little money, okay, but if there's nice money, people will just have a good drink. And surprisingly, like Dick said, it was the other way around. The more money there was there, the more higher the return rate was.
Why?
Huh? Why? Because people are more moral than you think. That's the point. People are better than you think. We undermine and we think that everybody's a crook and everybody's bad. Majorities, except me and my cat. What? Right? So- Okay, look, I'm sure this. If you look at the, you can look at the chart on page 186, right?
Ordinary people.
Huh?
I think what we're talking about is, that saying, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's the people in power.
Okay, but then we have that conversation. Those.
They're people too.
We talked about crooked people are crooked. People
But
and
they're
politicians
people that
are.
slow crooked.
They're just they're in a crock pot. They're slow crooked. My friends, the whole teaching is that we get so, it bothers me. It bothers me that we get distracted. We get distracted because of what we are told or what you see. The politicians, the big machas are all crooked. And by extension, everybody who likes that politician or is of this party must be crooked too, right? So by definition, it's already 50-50. So 50% of people are all crooked and bad, evil people. And you say yes with a big shake of hand. And you already write off half the population. And then the other half, right? Okay, now the other half, well, I know his mother, I know his grandmother, I know his neighbor. And before you know it, there's only 5 people left in your universe that are righteous people.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. So if you have your head buried if you have that perspective, I wish you good luck, but that's not the Jewish perspective. That's not the Jewish
Wait a minute,
perspective.
but King David was once asked, who do you trust in this world? And his answer was God. There's no people
Listen,
on that list.
We didn't say trusting people. We said we approach people as being righteous. So as long as we don't have, it's a very strong word. It's a very, I love it because you know what? If you can be biased yourself, you consider yourself being righteous, right? But your neighbor and your other person knowing you doesn't consider you righteous because they write you off. What do you mean? She does this and this. She's not righteous. You yourself say, no, I'm a righteous person. I make mistakes, right? I make mistakes. Like, you say a person says to themselves, right? I'm a bad cook, right? Someone says to me, I'm a bad cook, right? What are they saying? Is that a bad thing to say?
No.
No, right? Why? So you, but if you say to somebody else, you're a bad cook,
That's bad.
I just say the same thing. I said myself, I'm a bad cook. Why can't I say that she's a bad cook? What's wrong? Why not?
Judgmental.
You could say you're right.
Because when I say, because the way I'm saying it, when I say I'm a bad cook means I'm saying, what am I saying? I'm a good person. I have a lot of good qualities. One of my shortcomings, I'm not a good cook. Okay, I'm still a good person, right? But why can I say, but when we say he's a bad cook, right? Writing off the person as a bad person, as a schlump, is a bad, is everything's bad. Yeah, but more than that, in your brain, you're already judging the person as a person as a no goodie. Because it's a bad cook. It's no goodie. So my point is, if you look at the other person the same way, he's a great person. They're righteous people. Okay, so he crossed the street, he ran a red light. Okay, so he's not a good driver or he had a bad day.
Yeah.
That's the point, really. We're trying to bring that. All right.
Basically, are good people.
I took my dog for a walk in the park.
Mm.
We found the wallet under a bush. So I took the wallet, it has a name and everything, and I found some phone number. I called and I called him, and I found him phone.
Yeah.
And I gave him my address because I assume it's my neighbor because the park. So he came and I returned his wallet and said, where you got it? I said, under the bush, my dog get it. Well, he was not happy.
Yeah,
I mean, he thought that I stole.
yeah, that's his problem.
I mean,
He used to come to a JLI class.
it was like, oh my God.
All right, let's finish with the quote on the screen.
Rabbi.
One that judges his fellow favorably is judged favorably by Hashem, by God. Remember that too. Sidekick, side benefits. All right. All right. Let's quickly do the recap. Actually,
Lesson 6.
yeah. So the
Beyond presumption of innocence. 1. We have a natural tendency to judge
One
ourselves
second.
favorably, a courtesy we typically fail to extend to others.
the audio is not working on the screen. Just a
I did.
second.
Oh, thank you.
Bring up.
People that I know.
Jewish values train us to extend our personal positive bias to others. Two. Judaism views all humans as essentially good by nature, on account of the pure divine soul we possess. Negative conduct is viewed as a foreign imposition on our basic nature. 3. Jewish law views individuals as righteous unless clearly proven otherwise. Unknown people are afforded more than the benefit of the doubt due to a lack of evidence. They are treated as certainly righteous based on the positive nature native to all humans. 4. In certain cases, Jewish law refuses to accept a person's own claim that they acted unethically due to the underlying presumption of righteousness. 5. Behavioral studies demonstrate that people are typically more virtuous than we assume. 6. Judaism teaches us not to judge people based on statistics or beliefs regarding the broad public, but to assess others with a favorable eye based on their individual merits.
All right, this was a pleasure discourse. I hope everyone had learned something. If somebody wants to share, give feedback on the course, I would love to hear. Shoot me an email, let me know. There will be a
Rabbi, I
little.
would like to say one thing. Thank you for actually teaching us to be a good and better menches. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome, my pleasure. I want to just throw out a few things.
It was a nice class.
That's a few things. Number one, I want to thank Freddie for all the help putting the class together. I want to thank all of you for attending and making this class enjoyable. The debate is the most enjoyable part of this class. There'll be a little break now in the summer, but I want to. The Tanya class is ongoing. There's 3 new courses next year. And to give you a quick glimpse, just to announce what are the 3 courses. It's always a course in the fall after the holidays. Then there's one in the winter, there's one in the spring after Pesach. But we will inject other courses in between as well. So the next course, the formal JLI course is in the fall, is 26 questions about God. 26 questions about God that you have. That's going to be the topic of the course, all about learning about God. And you like that. Okay. The second course is called the Bible, the Talmud, the Medrash, Halacha, Musar, Kabbalah, Chassidus. It will give you a 6-week course on giving us a history course in essence, the history of Jewish literature of Torah, how it went through the times. And the last course in the spring of 2023 is a course on dreams, the Kabbalah of dreams and mysteries. Interesting course. So you see, you're getting a smorgasbord of different. You're at a party. You don't take just one item. We offer different flavors. If there is, and this is really I want to offer courses that there is interest in, and I want to hear from you. If you have an interest in a certain topic, I will try to accommodate that in between times. So in between times is probably going to be in the month of September, before the holidays. Right now, July, August, I might do a something on Zoom because I'll be traveling as well. I need a little break just to have a time to think again. No, the break from you guys, not from. Thank you. But if there's any specific topic that you like to, we should offer, please shoot me an email. Tell me now. Always open for suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, one more thing in Shabbos, not this Shabbos, the next Shabbos, July 2nd, so July 4th weekend, is the Rebbe's Yahrzeit. We mark the Rebbe's Yahrzeit. We're going to have a very special Farbrengen and Kiddush, where we're going to learn some of the Rebbe's teachings during the Kiddush, and I encourage you to come and participate. Yes.
The key point number 3
Yep.
leaves a very wide opening, which requires a separate course, and it is this. It undoes the entire concept of presumption of righteousness because it says, unless clearly proven otherwise. What standard of proof? Preponderance of the proof, clear and convincing, or beyond a reasonable doubt?
Thank you. Okay, good. Anybody else want a suggestion for a course, for a class, a topic? That's it?
I had
Yeah.
something in my mind about Zionism and why it became secular.
Yeah, we did that course actually, but it's a good course.
May I mention something? I
I
don't know
guess
how
my-
well known it's by you, but I just learned something not too long ago.
Yeah.
About the halal meat. I used to think that because they are our cousins.
Yeah.
Okay, it's done very similarly, but not as it's supposed to be. It's a completely different thing. It could be, they could sell the body of a dead animal that was dead already, as long as they say Allah Akbar, they could send it, and that makes it halal. So be very wary of that. No, I didn't know that it was that bad, that different from.
Not only that.
Right,
not only
as
that.
long as they say their prayer,
The,
no matter conditions. no
the
matter
moment
the
the
shape of the animal.
moment the animal was tortured,
Mhm.
it's not kosher.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you know what, especially the neighborhoods where there's a lot of Muslims lately, in New York, in Queens, Costco sells lamb, halal, the whole refrigerator.
Renee, good seeing you.
Halal meat.
It was great seeing you, Rabbi. Thank you so much to the
You're
Rabbi.
welcome.
Yesterday, we had a symposium in a renovated synagogue in an hour from here in Burgenland. So it was wonderful. I wanted to tell you, just wonderful.
Congratulations on that. Beautiful.
So thank you, Rabbi. Toda
Welcome.
Rabbi.
Yes,
Shalom,
thank you,
shalom,
Alice.
and die ganze Mishpoche.
Thank you. Take care. Alice, you read the bye. Take care.